Could Hunter Goodman ever be the Colorado Rockies' very own big dumper? Could the Rockies develop Hunter Goodman to have the same output or similar output as Cal Raleigh for the Seattle Mariners? We talk about that and more coming up next on the DNVR Rockies podcast. It's another postseason edition of the DNVR Rockies podcast. With this postseason, not including very much Rockies, but including a lot of good baseball. And we have some good baseball to talk about today, as well as some Rockies topics. We're mixing it up here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. Welcome in, Christian Saez, Big Fly Spence, maybe back to Big Drive Spence now that baseball season's almost over. Can we like change your name back at this point?
I can transform back into, but unfortunately where we live, there's not much golf either.
True.
I'm trying to play these last couple of weeks of nice weather before ultimately the snow flies and golf turns to shit.
Are you a spring golf, summer golf, or fall golf? Like what's your ideal season for golf?
Oh, the best is by far fall. Yeah, 100%. Fall golf, like afternoon fall golf. Like, I'm playing this Thursday, and it's supposed to be raining, of course, to kind of ruin it. But if it's, like, sunny out and it's, like, 4 p.m. on a fall afternoon, trees are changing, leaves are on the ground, and I'm playing golf, that is about peak me.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon was perfect. Before it started getting windy, I was walking out, like, next to the golf course, and there were still people golfing. Sunset was incredible. The leaves are changing, like, perfect weather. Yeah, it is beautiful outside. So, it's a good time to get outside, enjoy some of the nice Colorado weather. And speaking of that, I did see that Paul McCartney actually had his concert at Coors Field in October, which was just a few days ago. I realized they scheduled that concert, months ago, right? And same thing with the golf, the Top Deck Golf or whatever it is.
Deck Golf, yeah. They schedule that years in advance. They guarantee. They're like, we have no playoff baseball, no baseball, and no Rockies in October is what I keep telling my kid. No Rockies October, like that's
wild.
That's what we're gonna live with.
I get it. I mean, they're not wrong. The Rockies haven't been to the postseason in 7+ years, but it is wild to me that they're like banking on the fact that they're, from a business perspective, not going to be in the postseason. So that's a little wild. I heard the concert was fun. But yeah, we got some news to talk about today. We'll start the show with breaking news, not Rockies related, but breaking news in the Major League Baseball world. The Padres just announced that Mike Schildt is no longer going to be the manager in just his second season at the helm of the Padres. He retired, citing the severe toll it took on his mental and physical well-being. My God,
imagine
that sounds so dark.
Managing the Colorado Rockies. What kind of toll does that take on you? Like Warren Schaefer, I don't know, what is he, 43,
Can we
44?
check on Warren?
Is he like the mental and physical equivalent of an 80-year-old after 100+ games of that?
It's like when you see like presidents, like in the past, you'll see the like before becoming the president and 4 years into being president, and they're like, they look like they've aged 20 years.
Oh, yeah, gray hairs are just like me. Gray hairs are popping. Like,
that's what it looks like if you're a Major League Baseball manager. It's interesting because the Padres are a good team. They've obviously been a little underwhelming. They haven't exceeded expectations. They missed the World Series. They should have been in the World Series last year. You could have made the argument that they could have been in the World Series this year. Things just haven't worked out for the Padres. They've had ownership, kind of issues going on in the background. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in the Padres world. So interesting to see Mike Schildt say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm moving on. And that's what it is. So,
well, do you think real quick that part of the mental and physical toll is because obviously baseball is a long season. You play a lot of games. There's a lot of travel, but the fact that like mental toll is that the Padres are a team that is kind of has World Series expectations every single year, and they have not been able to get there. Like that's part of it. Like if you're managing, if you're the managing,
there you go. You're adding a few extra letters in there.
Right, it's a long weekend. If you're the manager for the Minnesota Twins or something like that, like yes, it's a mental toll, and I'm not downplaying that, but it's the exciting fan base, and if you're good, it's really awesome. But if you're not good, everybody's kind of like, yep, that's the Twins. The Rockies kind of the same way. Like, if we're really good, everybody will be excited, but nobody's out here expecting you to win the World Series. And part of the Padres' whole rebuild in the last 5 to 6 years has been like, you've got stars all over the field, you've got great pitching, you've got just an extremely talented roster that they spent a lot of money on and made great trades for, and then you can't get there, and that's got to take a toll on the fan base and on obviously the manager and everybody in the org.
Yeah, and the players too. You also have some big personalities, I think, on the Padres. The Padres don't seem like an easy team to manage. You've seen the interviews where Manny Machado has just, I don't know, for lack of a better way of putting it, seemingly been a little immature in handling the media. You have a lot of different personalities, and every team has different personalities, but I would imagine that with not meeting expectations the way that the Padres have over the last few years, and paired with some kind of difficult people, it seems like, difficult players personality-wise to deal with, that I would imagine takes a toll on someone. So yeah, I did see our good friend Manny on MLB. He's a writer, covers the Rockies, but also other MLB teams. He posted that roughly 25% of all current Major League Baseball teams right now are without a manager. And that's including the Rockies, at least from a full-time standpoint. So the managerial situation is going to be an interesting offseason topic for all teams, including the Rockies. But I want to move forward. We are going to be talking about the postseason a lot in this show. We're going to start with some Rockies topics. I see Scott already in the chat. Scott, that's awesome that your mom's getting a chance to possibly go to Seattle to watch the ALCS game. First ALCS game in Seattle since I was 4 years old. So that's going to be incredible. The atmosphere is going to be insane. So we'll talk more about the postseason as this goes on. But I asked the question to start the show: can Hunter Goodman ever become like the next, or like the Rockies version of Cal Raleigh? Will he ever progress to that point? And I got this from our good friends at Blake Street Banner. They put up a side-by-side comparison. Alyssa, if you want to throw that up there, that graphic that I sent you, we have a side-by-side comparison of Cal Raleigh in his age 25 season and Hunter Goodman this last year as an age 25 almost rookie for the Colorado Rockies. And the numbers are shockingly similar. I mean, Cal Raleigh, little bit better WAR, but almost the exact same wins above replacement, which is kind of how you gauge a player's value at this point. Goodman played more games. Goodman had a better batting average, and Goodman had a couple more home runs. To be completely honest with you, aside from the defensive side of things, just simply offensively, Hunter Goodman had a better age 25 season than Cal Raleigh. So again, you have no idea where he's going to progress. The Rockies don't have a tendency, or at least a history, of developing good players over time. But that's really positive to see. And you could see Hunter Goodman possibly ending up having a similar trajectory as a Cal Raleigh, one day. Yeah. Maybe not 65 home runs, but something like that.
I think I gave you a little shit for this earlier in the year, but Cal Raleigh, how old is he now? Late 20s?
Like 28, 29 maybe?
Did he start the roids? Like, where did this come from? Like, this seems
eats a lot.
It seems insane. Dumper. Like, his ass is huge, yes. But I'm going from, like, looking at his age 25 season and then seeing that where he is now, like a Barry Bonds level season, it does seem insane. But I think the exciting part about Hunter Goodman for the Rockies is the fact that he's one of the very few success stories we have, and not just from a perspective of the numbers he's put on the field, but they transitioned him to catcher. The Rockies, I don't have much knowledge of the Rockies from probably 93 when they started to about 2000 to 2002 ish. Yeah. That whole era is not really in my mind, but since I started really dialing into the Rockies, they've never had a catcher come up through their own system, be drafted, developed, come up through the system and have, no catchers had the season that Goodman had this year in general. But the fact that it's not your Vittorialbas, Chris Iannetta was maybe as close as it gets in terms of drafting and developing a guy that came up. But I mean, Goodman's power numbers. Goodman was the best hitter all year consistently for the Colorado Rockies. And from a catching perspective, when you see Cal Raleigh doing what he's doing, it does give you a little bit of hope that Goodman one day could be in that same boat. And I don't necessarily, I mean, 60 home runs would be sweet, but like Wolfgang Paco said, 30 to 40 a year, I think if Hunter Goodman stays there next 100%. Year and going forward, that's just a great spot to be in. And you have a position locked down now. You know, one thing that never gets taken into account in professional sports is the players you have can get better. Yes, they can also get worse, but like it's nice to see Hunter have his breakout season offensively, become an all-star, and then, you know, work on the defensive end and become better defensively and just become a better all-around catcher. I think he could be the future piece, and having that guy behind the plate's huge. Yeah. Because he's dealing with all the pitchers. He's hitting 40 bombs. He's hitting, you know, top 3 in your lineup. Like having a piece that we can count on going forward is going to be a huge thing for the Colorado Rockies.
And that's the thing about Cal Raleigh is he has the defensive side locked down. I mean, his throw, I don't know if you guys saw his throw from the other day. His throw down to second was literally perfect.
We got back-to-back perfect throws in that game,
yes,
I believe.
Yes. And I will say Cal Raleigh went through a bit of a slump defensively. He actually had allowed 21 consecutive stolen bases going into the Rockies series against the Mariners. So it's not like he's perfect, but he is a good defensive catcher, right? He's not, he might not be Yadier Molina, but he is a very good defensive catcher. He was a Platinum Glove winner last year. And then what he does offensively is huge. I agree with you completely, and I agree with Wolfgang. A 280 batting average with 30 to 40 home runs on the Rockies is perfect. If you can duplicate that 6 times in a lineup, hell, 5 times in a lineup, this Rockies team wins, you know, a quarter more games, you know, in the coming years. Hunter Goodman is a solid piece, at least in this last year, if he can continue to duplicate what he did year in and year out. I think the future of Hunter Goodman, we're going to learn a lot about him in how he performs next year, because I was listening to our good friends in the Rockies Insider, Patrick Lyons, and he had Kevin Henry with the Denver Gazette on, and they were talking about this specifically last night too. And Kevin was saying, you know, hey, I'm worried that it could possibly end up mimicking something like the Nolan Jones situation, where Nolan Jones had a breakout year number 1, and he looked great, and everyone's saying, all right, the Rockies have a piece in place. Nolan Jones is your guy. And then he showed up the next year, and he had injuries, and he had some off-field stuff, and he just never got back to being what he was in his rookie season. Everything went right for Hunter Goodman last year, or this year, this past year. He was healthy pretty much the entire year. I think he only missed a couple games with like some soreness that one time, and that was it. He was healthy all year round. He caught all season long, and he was consistent. He never really went on any big slumps. Like, he was just an all-around good player. So I think if he can continue that level, even if he just matches what he did in 2025 going into 2026, I think that'll say a lot about what his future could look like.
Yeah, and this is becoming a now scary trend, as Kevin pointed to, with just the difference between Nolan Jones. But we also saw an almost, you know, the numbers actually ended up being better at the end of the season, so he didn't break the curse. But there's the curse of, it's now 3 years in a row that the Rockies breakout player one year shows up the next year and he's either hurt or bad or both. And Brenton Doyle is a perfect example of that this year. We're like, okay, they traded away Nolan Jones right before the season started, which ended up being a good deal for the Rockies 2025 season. You know, we'll see where Tyler Freeman ends up, or if they get more prospects out of him and trade him again. But overall, a good player for a Nolan Jones who was left off a playoff roster, mind you. So you know, they made a good trade there, but then you go and you have Brenton Doyle, your all-star, super elite defending center fielder who you expect to hit 270, 280, steal 30 bases, and also have 20 to 25 bombs. And I'm not shitting on him for an injury, because it's just sometimes that's unlucky, and he also had some other weird off the field stuff. But that this is going into 3 years in a row. If Hunter Goodman becomes the next guy to have this fall off after a year, you got to start wondering like what's going on with, because it's not just a flash in the pan. Nolan Jones was like, okay, well, shake that off. He'll be back next year and be better, and then we ended up trading him. But now we've seen it back to back to back years of like, all right, this guy was way better. Like, you know, some players exceeded expectations, some players far under achieved this year, but like Hunter Goodman far exceeded expectations.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
if you would have told us, like we had some high hopes for the Rockies, right? And I think we'll get into some of that.
Oh yeah.
If you would have told us that the Rockies had an all-star catcher in Hunter Goodman, as crazy as some of our takes
the year before that. Yeah,
as crazy as some of our takes were, we would have said you were insane.
Yeah.
And that was actually what happened this year. So that they have a tendency to surprise us, but let's hope that it doesn't continue to follow the same trend of really, really good year. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, that's not what we expected from him again.
Yeah, the Rockies have a history of big hangovers for players that get good, you know, coming into the big leagues and then just fall off. And, you know, I look at comparisons to teams like the Brewers, who are the exact opposite. They'll take players like Nick Mears, who get kind of cast aside by other teams and turn them into all-stars. And that's how they've built the best team, in my opinion, at least in the National League, and a team that I think can compete with the Dodgers right now. So there's a lot of different layers to that, but I think 2026 will show us and give us a good understanding of what the future of Hunter Goodman could possibly look like. And I think there's also one more piece to this conversation that we have to talk about as well, and that's what do the Rockies do with a future contract for Hunter Goodman? If Hunter Goodman continues to perform well offensively, how do the Rockies handle his contract? We got to hit our first break of the show, but after the break, I want to talk about how that plays a variable into his future with the Colorado Rockies. All right, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR and of the Colorado Rockies, and it's getting a little chilly outside. We were talking about the fact that, yeah, you know, and fall is beautiful in Colorado. The leaves are gorgeous. The weather's still pretty nice, but you can feel a chill in the air. You know winter's around the corner, and if you are worried about your car not being able to handle the Colorado weather, the environment that we have here in Colorado, well, you got to go check out any of those Toyota dealerships, because Toyota has so many different vehicles that can handle all of the different roads and weather conditions here in Colorado. And there's different options. That's the cool thing about Toyota, is it's not just one specific car that's like, hey, if I want to go be able to get up into the mountains and go skiing and handle the snowy roads, I got to get this specific vehicle. And like, no, you can go with a truck. You can go with the Tacoma, the Tundra, all-wheel drive models. You can go with an SUV like I have the RAV4. You can go with a 4Runner. The Highlander is a great choice that you can fit car seats in the back. I mean, so many different choices. You can also go the hybrid route. You know, a lot of the options you have with Toyota include a hybrid zero-emission combination, like the hybrid RAV4. So many different choices. You truly cannot go wrong with Toyota. So if you are, like I said, getting ready to get a new car here this winter, visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota Eastern Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR.
Your new Toyota it has seat heaters, right?
It does, and steering wheel heaters.
Dude, that is the most elite thing. When I think those became like pretty popular, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, where every car was starting to have
Toyota
them.
had it too.
Did it really?
2007 had it. Yeah.
Holy
Just
shit.
seat heaters, not the
wow, I did not expect that at all.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the seat. I used to have a car. My old Tacoma, because maybe it was the interior didn't have seat heaters.
Yeah.
And when I went to the new Tundra and got seat heaters, there's nothing better than firing that up and just sitting there and like you're freezing driving the car and your hands are warm and your ass is warm. Elite.
It's such a good combination. Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, because football season is in full swing. Unfortunately, if you were watching that Broncos game, I mean, they got the dub, but it was a little stress inducing. But if you're heading out to the Broncos game coming up this weekend, Sunday, right? They're playing the Giants here. First of all, you gotta pick up a ticket to visit us at the tailgate, but also use the Game Time app to get your tickets, because Game Time is the perfect place to get NFL tickets no matter where you are, whether you're here in Denver or somewhere else. You're watching an NFL game, you're going to an NFL game, you got to use Game Time. Game Time is the best because they have so many great features on their app. They make it easier to get the tickets in the place that you want for the prices that you want as well. And we know it's expensive to go out to go watch NFL games, especially the Broncos. Your 4-2 Broncos. It's pricey sometimes. So the Game Time app, it's transparent. I love that you can open up the app and you can see as you're going through and you're checking the seats that you're getting, you can see exactly what you're paying for. You get all of the fees and taxes, everything included. So when you click on that seat, it says, this is how much that seat costs. That's the total that you are going to pay. You don't have to get surprised when you go to check out and it's double the price because of all these fees. No, Game Time app is perfect. They've got different seat views, so you can see what the view is going to look like from your seat. They've got ticket coverage, the lowest price guarantee, all the good stuff. So take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off. Tap ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today.
Cheapest get-in price for the Broncos game, give me a guess this weekend.
Cheapest?
On the Game Time app, yeah.
$75.
$211.
Oh my God, I was not even
Bro,
close.
they are popping.
Wow.
I know the loss was terrible, but
I figured like a nosebleed you can get under 100. I figured you could still get under 100.
You can if you wait on the Game Time app. Like, yes, get your tickets if you're comfortable getting them early, but if you wait till
first pitch,
first pitch. If you wait till 1 p.m. on Sunday, you can get in for about $100. I bet.
Not bad. All right. So I prefaced before this break that wanted to talk a little bit about future contracts for Hunter Goodman. Now, obviously, the Rockies are in no rush to get a contract figured out. But if there's one thing the Rockies have done well from a contractual standpoint in the past, it's been locking down a couple of their good players, specifically Ezequiel Tovar, to a relatively team-friendly deal, given the output that Tovar's given the Rockies. So there's maybe an idea that if Hunter Goodman plays well in 2026, maybe they kind of give him we'll give you a Tovar-esque deal, and we'll save some money long-term, and we lock up a pretty good player in the near future. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, though, about when that has to do with his catching. Because I think the catching piece is the big hiccup for me. Whereas, like with Tovar has an average offensive output and above average defense. So you're looking at like a relatively above average player with Tovar that you can see in the near future. With Goodman, yes, you have significantly above average offensive output, at least this year. But the catching is, I wouldn't call it a liability, but it's definitely, I would even say it's below par. Maybe it gets better, but I just don't know if he is the long-term plan for the Rockies from a catching perspective. I think Hunter Goodman actually really threw a wrench in the Rockies' development plans, catching-wise. The fact that he ended up being the catcher, I think kind of messed up the Rockies' plans. Because now, Braxton Fulford is your backup catcher. Drew Romo's not even in the picture at this point. Like, it just messed up all of their development plans. So, like, how do they manage that approaching his future?
Do you think they move him to first base? Is that a thing?
But so if the Rockies move Hunter Goodman to first base, that drops his value significantly in my mind. Same thing if they put him back in the outfield. I think Hunter is most valuable at catcher. But at the same time, he's not that valuable from a catching perspective. So it's just, you're between a kind of a rock and a hard place. You don't really want to leave him just as a DH. You want to leave that DH spot open, probably for a veteran who can, just
Chris Bryant.
For your veteran slugger. But so you don't want to have to leave him at DH. You want to have his defense be capable enough to be in the lineup, but it's a weird spot. It's a really weird spot. I really just think we're relying on 2026 to tell us which direction they're going with that.
Yeah. So I was just looking up the highest paid catchers in 2025. JT Realmuto is the highest paid catcher in the MLB at $23.5 million a year.
Yeah.
Number 10 on that list is a guy like Dalton Varsho for the Blue Jays. He makes 8.2. Okay. Like if I see another above average to borderline elite for his position offensive year from Hunter Goodman, which this year it was. I mean, this year in the NL, it was him and Will Smith were the two best catchers overall, especially offensively. I mean, Hunter gets knocked down a little bit for the defense, but offensively, it's Will Smith and Hunter Goodman in the National League. And I mean, I could see if we see that another good season of that, and some hopeful, like defense isn't easy to work on. I'm not going to say it's just easy to get better, but that's one of those things where like literally just over time, I mean, the guy's been catching full time for a year. Basically.
Yeah, it's a reps thing.
Like the more reps you get, the more, time he spends with the pitching staff, which obviously is a disaster, but like, we don't know who it's going to be. I think anywhere between $7 and $8 million a year, not even the top 10 highest paid catcher in the MLB is a fair spot for him. And I think you wait and see what 2026 is, just like you said, and then you lock him up to a 6-7 year deal at $7 or $8 million a year. You pay him $56 million over he's happy. I would think he'd be happy with that. You're happy with that, having that position kind of locked in, because we're going to talk about what the Rockies are going to do 2026, what they did in 2025, all this stuff. But like, there's just so many question marks that, you hope this isn't a question mark still. Like if you want to go big brain and say, we've had the issues year over year with players and they're not able to recreate what they did the year before. And we've seen it with the Rockies. But if you want to hope that one guy has at least answered a question on your roster, it's Hunter Goodman being your catcher for the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions. You just said it. There's a ton of questions facing whoever becomes the new GM or president of baseball operations, whichever way that decides to go. But it's Hunter Goodman, hopefully, is not a question that has to be answered in a, oh my God, what a drop off. What do we do with this guy? More of a, hey, this guy's continuing to outperform our expectations. He's continuing to take a step up in 2026. And now we need to figure out, do we extend him? What do we do? I hope Doyle's in the same conversation as that.
Yeah, we hope he has a fuck you, pay me season.
Yeah,
100%. Please do it. Somebody do that for us, please.
And gladly. I think the Rockies would gladly do that. I don't think the Rockies are against spending money on players that they truly 100% trust to be a future of this organization. It's why they locked up Ezequiel Tovar when they did. Like, I think the Rockies are, for all the faults that they have in every other area, and, even sometimes giving bad contracts out to other players, like, they want to give contracts to the players that they see as a part of their future. So yes, the Rockies might not spend a ton of money compared to the Dodgers, but I think if you give them a chance to say, hey, I'm playing good enough to where you want me to be a part of this for the next few years.
Yeah, and they've done a good job of that. When German Marquez was your bona fide ace 4 or 5 years ago, they signed him to. They seemingly get some very team friendly deals, which is kind of shocking for them being the Rockies. But they signed Marquez to a great team friendly deal. They signed Tovar to a pretty team friendly deal. Like they do lock up their players that they have either traded for it very young, or they brought up and drafted and developed, and they tend to keep those guys around for a good amount of time until they, Trevor Story it or John Gray it and become really, really good, and then you don't know what to do with them. But like these mediocre to above average Rockies that are homegrown, they definitely will lock those guys up.
To answer Lefty's question in the chat, does anybody get a new contract of meaning before the 27 possible lockout? Not a contract of meaning, no. I mean, there's going to be small contracts that are, season-long contracts thrown out there and stuff like that, but maybe even a 2-year contract that we see. But I don't think the Rockies are going to make... I don't think the Rockies are going to change their game plan from a front office perspective before the lockout. I think they're still going to try to get that all figured out before the lockout. But I do think the lockout will change their willingness to go sign any big contracts before the possible lockout in 2027. So that I do think plays a factor into all of this. Speaking of all of this, I want to talk for a couple minutes. I don't know if you had seen Thomas Harding's recent article where he was kind of talking about a little bit more in depth on what this new GM or president of baseball operations, what they're going to be tasked with accomplishing. But he had a couple of bullet points that I thought were actually really interesting. And Thomas is obviously very connected within the Rockies organization. He's been covering this team for 20-something years. He made an interesting point where he was saying that leadership, the new leadership, the Rockies are looking for leadership that will include experience in trades and major league free agencies. He specifically noted that the last 2 GMs, Bridich and Schmidt, were both promoted from jobs that were more scouting oriented. So I thought that was really interesting because that I think is a sign of stepping in the right direction, because I think the Rockies have undervalued free agency for sure, and also trades, the trade deadline for years, even when the Rockies were good. I think that's what got the Rockies into the position that they're in right now in the first place, where they didn't value the free agencies of the Trevor Stories, of the DJ LeMahieus, of those kind of players, and they didn't trade the Ryan McMahons in their primes. Those mistakes caused the Rockies to be where they're at today. And I think if you have a good GM or president of baseball operations that knows how to properly execute free agency, even with a budget and a good trade deadline, that's a huge step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be nice for them, as much as we don't want them to they won't overspend, so we don't have to worry about that portion of it. But we want them to go out and sign guys that you actually want to see on the baseball field. And I saw, we're going to get into it at some point, but I saw on the notes, like, we don't want any more Kyle Farmers out there. We don't want any more, like, if you're going to sign a guy that's older, a veteran, you want to see him, you have to fill out the roster, but that's one of my big keys for the Rockies for next year. Is obviously all of this can get turned on its head with a new GM, president of baseball operations, but I want to see the Rockies filling out their roster with the Karoses and the Ritters and the Amadors potentially. Like, those guys are the guys that need to be your roster. You got your starters up here, and then you've got your fringe players that could be starters in case of injuries. Like, I want those guys to all be potential future starters. I don't want to sign a bunch of 30-year-olds that are backing people up that then once we do inevitably have an injury. It's sports. Everybody, gets hurt at some point. We have these guys that are not only bad and not only are they, not playing well, but they're not a part of a team that's clearly in, now another reset rebuild, but like they've been in the rebuilding mode for 5 or 6 years, and you want to give more time to these younger guys in case somebody does get hurt. Like, they're there. And I understand getting at bats at AAA and this and that. Like, no, the Rockies have, and I've said this like a million times, and I sound like a broken record. The Rockies have a lot of good role players and a lot of good bench players on their team that would fill other roles on other bigger teams. Let's find the guys that are actual stars that deserve to be starters every day and fill out the rest of our team with those good role players that have future potential versus guys that are on the tail end of their career that you just signed because they're cheap and they theoretically can, play first base or second base or wherever you need. I'm sick of seeing that.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to see another Alan Trejo, a guy that comes up just because you have no other choices. Like, you need to have a better game plan in place. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as the show goes on. But after this next break, we've got to do it. I've been dreading this moment because it's going to make me look like the dumbest person in the world. But I don't think I'm alone in all of this. But we revisit our old predictions of the 2025 Rocky season. What did we get right? Not very much. What did we get wrong? Almost everything. And we talk about that coming up next. All right, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365, because at Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We're going to look at some of our best and worst bets in this next segment. There's a lot of them. But I got to say, this is why I enjoy betting. I know you obviously love betting. It makes bad seasons like this for the Rockies more enjoyable, because we came into this season, we're getting ready, we're getting all of our bets in place, and obviously not all of them panned out. But then you see the direction that the season's heading, and you can kind of allow that to, like, I don't know, make you a little more excited. Like, we were getting locked in on our Bet365 anti-Rockies parlays, and I got to say, you probably had a lot of success on some of those.
I did. I had a lot of success on the anti-Rockies parlays, and when the Rockies were striking out a ton, you can bet on pitcher strikeouts. The other team's 100%. Pitcher strikeouts, it was easy
bet
money.
The under on runs, for the Rockies.
The Rockies didn't score for like a whole series. Pretty easy to bet on the under on runs in them. And then, then also betting any of our pitchers to give up, the starters to give up 3 to 4 to 5 runs. Yep. Pretty money. Like, it happened probably, if you had to look at like 3 different bets of like, the other team scoring, a normal team total in an MLB game is 4.5, 5.5. The other team scoring over that, over the course of the 162 game Rocky season, it probably hit about 120 to 130 times.
100%.
So you can kind of, and betting on your bad team is as fun as it gets, because you know what's going to happen. We sat down for every Rockies game and knew what was going to happen. Yep. And we bet on it, and then you make money off of it because you knew what was going to happen. And it was just like, it's not free money. Betting is tough, but when you have a team that's, just like when you have a team that's really good, you want to send it on their money line every night and they're winning every game, great. the Rockies were really bad. It was fun to bet against them and also bet some hits and hit parlays with them because there's a lot of hits at Coors Field.
Yeah, well, like I said, using that DNVR 365 code when you sign up, you can choose between either a bet and get offer, first bet safety net offer. The Bet 365 app has tons of different options, boosts, a lot of cool stuff. So use that code DNVR 365 when you sign up. See why it's never ordinary at Bet 365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Also want to give some love to our friends over at Coors Light. Coors Light is the best light beer. And Coors Light is one of those beers that, like, it's not just a summer beer for me. I can have Coors Light all year long. I'm going to be going to this tailgate coming up this weekend on Sunday for the Broncos, and it might be a little chilly. You know, I mean, it's the fall football air starts to creep in a little bit, especially, you know, for those early tailgates, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to have a Blue Mountain Coors Light. I'm going to be chilling out. I'm going to be relaxing. We're going to be having a great time. Coors just goes well with anything, whether it's the middle of summer and it's 110 degrees and you're melting on the rooftop, or it's a cold winter's day where you're watching some football and enjoying a nice, cold, refreshing Coors Light. You just can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong with Coors Light. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with an instant cart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado. All right. You ready for this? Last season, actually it was kind of the middle of the off season last year. It was in January. We did our 25 predictions for 2025 for the Colorado Rockies. And so I have 25 predictions that I had going into the 2025 season for the Colorado Rockies. And now that the Rockies season is done, we take a look back on what I got right, what I got wrong. And then for you, Spencer, we'll talk about some of your best and worst bets of the 2025 Rockies season. Because as Lefty says in the chat, Spencer has created a college fund from the Rockies' 25 woes. We'll find out if that's actually true here in just a second. So number one on my 2025 Rockies prediction that was so far from being right, the Rockies will have a 72-90 record.
I think I was right in that realm with you. I think when we did our final show before the season started, I think I said 72-90 or 70-92. 70 wins I thought was very attainable.
Can I just say, this prediction list that I have makes me look like the dumbest baseball analyst. Like, I don't even know why DNVR employs me. I feel like I shouldn't be reading all of these. That's number one. Number two, Chase Dollander will make his MLB debut in the month of May. Okay, I wasn't right about that. He made his debut earlier than that. I think it was in April. But that's not a terrible idea. So that one wasn't embarrassing, at least. I'll just say that wasn't embarrassing. We did see Chase Dollander earlier than May, but I didn't get embarrassed by that one. Number three, this one I got right. Do we win our first game? We did not, although we should have won our first game because Bud Black should have left Kyle Freeland in longer than, 78 pitches or 76 pitches or something like that. That was crazy. That was the first pull your hair out game of the season, and it was day one.
Yeah, we had an infuriating loss right off the hop.
Right off the bat, dude. So we did not win our first game. We did win the second game of the year, though, with a Senzatella start. That was the only time we saw consecutive lineups back-to-back. It was game one.
Still insane to think about.
It is insane to think about. Number four, who's the biggest pitching surprise positively for the Rockies in 2025? Ryan Feltner. We got to see him 6 times in 2025, and none of those were.
Well, I'll give you a little credit there.
Surprising.
That's an injury-based thing, and he has this weird back thing that you never know. Anytime I hear back injury now in sports with what Chris Bryant's done to me mentally, I think their career's over. But I don't think I think from his starts, like at one point in the middle of, I want to say April, I was like, this guy's our bona fide ace.
Yes.
So I don't think you were like far off on that. Like, to me, an injury doesn't ruin a prediction.
It's like in betting, like if you bet on a certain player and then that player ends up not being in the lineup, it just like nullifies everything. Like,
right.
Maybe we'll put that. We'll just cross that one out.
Yeah, give yourself a little credit there because there's a 3 or 4 start realm. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is.
Stretch.
3 or 4 start stretch. There you go. I am struggle bus today. 3 or 4 start stretch where he was. I thought, holy shit! Like, we've got a guy.
He was one of the better pitchers in the second half of baseball last year. across all of baseball, or at least the National League. So yeah, he was a bummer last year or this year.
We at least did have a guy that filled that role for you, and that was Tanner Gordon.
TG. Number 5, Nolan Jones will bounce back to shades of his former self. Well, he didn't, and he didn't in Cleveland either because he got traded before the season even started. So that's a no-go.
Also not fair to you, though.
Yes. Yeah, we can X that one out, too.
Yeah, he had I'll look up his numbers in Cleveland. I don't think it was good. It wasn't left off the roster, but
yeah, he did get injured, and he was dealing with injuries. But this one was my first real swing and a miss on. Second real swing and a miss. The first one was the record. This is my second real swing and a miss. Number 6, Michael Toglia will be in the Gold Glove conversation in 2025. He wasn't even on the team in 2025. He got sent down, and that was arguably the biggest bust of 2025 was Michael Toglia. Huge disappointment for the Colorado Rockies overall. I'll rattle through some of these next ones. Number 7, Brenton Doyle will win his 3rd consecutive Gold Glove. He didn't, but he wasn't a bad defensive player.
Did Gold Gloves get announced?
No, that happens after. It's the week or so after.
Oh, yeah, that's still up in the air.
He had a good season.
He had enough.
It's not going to happen, though.
Well, remember we talked about this at one point. He had enough of the draw-dropping plays.
He did.
And he's already a 2-time winner that he may end up getting some votes. So if he gets top 3 votes, or he ends up being in the finalists for the Gold Glove, that's not a bad prediction.
I don't think he will, but we'll see. We'll see. There's some good outfielders this year in the National League. So that's number 7. Number 8, Thairo Estrada will exceed expectations up the middle with Tovar. Thairo Estrada played up the middle with Tovar 3 times in 2025. Number 9, Zach Veen will overtake Jordan Beck to lock down the remaining outfield position. Who?
These are so good.
God damn, dude, this is bad. Number 10, Ryan McMahon will be in the trade conversation by trade deadline.
Yeah.
We got one. Ryan McMahon was traded to the New York Yankees, got to go see some postseason action, and was a damn good postseason player, by the way. Shout out to him for showing up in the month of October, Mr. October, as we call him. Number 11, the Rockies will have 2 All-Star nominations, Doyle and Tovar. Both of those players had injuries and off-field stuff that they were dealing with, and so it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. Tovar was a bigger disappointment. Doyle had a really bad middle of the season, but he started hot and ended hot. So I'm not really out on Doyle yet. Tovar just had a bad season.
When you're going through these, did the I'm full purple glassesing it right now. Yeah. Did the Rockies get affected by injuries way more than we think this year? Because looking at your predictions,
kind of did.
Yeah, Doyle was out a lot of the year. Tovar was out a lot of the year. Ryan Feltner, who started well, was out a lot of the year. Estrada literally was the prize, Rockies level prize free agent signing. Yeah. He was out most of the year. I'm not making excuses for 43 wins, but as we go through these predictions, the Toglia thing obviously was a big swing and a miss, both from Michael and from you. But all these other predictions, you're not entirely wrong, or just you missed the boat completely because we didn't see enough from any of these guys to be right or wrong.
Dude, you're really letting me down easy here. You're doing a good job of keeping my ego up a little bit. So I appreciate that. Injuries didn't help. They definitely didn't help. I wouldn't say you blame the season on injuries, but they did not help. That's for sure. Number 12, Kyle Farmer will end up catching in at least one game. He did not, but Kyle Farmer did end up pitching in one game.
I was going to say, we got the Jacob Stallings pitching game. We got this Kyle Farmer pitching game.
Austin
Nola. Yeah, we had 3 different, and there had to be 1 or 2 more. I think Trejo pitched, didn't he, in one game? I think he did.
I tend to tune out after a
if a position player comes onto the mound, it's time to go do something else.
It's time to go clean the house is what that's time to do. All right. This one I got right. Aside from Jacob Stallings, Hunter Goodman picks up the most innings at catcher, and he did, 100%. He picked up more innings at catcher than Cal Raleigh did in his 25-year-old season. So shout out to Hunter Goodman. Got that one right. Jaden Hill finishes with the best bullpen ERA. Jaden Hill was not bad for the Rockies in the bullpen. He did not get the best bullpen ERA.
Was he second? I think he was second behind Jimmy Hurd.
I don't know if he had enough time, enough innings pitched to get him up there. But for the lack of innings pitched he had, it was good. He had a good half season with the Rockies.
I remember when we were doing our I was looking something up one of the couple shows ago, and,
he's up there.
He was I think he had a 3 ERA, which kind of shocked me because I felt like he was giving up runs every time he came in.
Yeah, he didn't pitch a lot. Like that was the thing. But no, he wasn't bad. Jaden Hill wasn't bad. So not a full swing and a miss. Maybe a foul tip on that one.
Foul ball.
Yeah, foul ball. Seth Halverson becomes the new closer.
Very right. Give yourself some credit.
Yeah,
that guy was a fucking dog. He was the closer.
Bullpen injuries for Scott. Yeah, bullpen injuries kind of messed him up from being like the season closer. Vodnik ended up taking that over in the end, and actually, I think Vodnik was probably the best closer from consistency wise. But Halverson at a point was the closer, so that one wasn't too bad.
Gun to your head, nobody leaves the Rockies bullpen from this year to next year, and they don't add anybody, which I hope does happen. Who's your closer starting day one?
Victor Vodnik. I think he did enough for me. He was in the circle of trust a couple times. I don't think Seth ever made it to the circle of trust. Number 16, of the new signings, Estrada, Herget, Farmer. Estrada will end up having the most successful season with the Rockies, mostly because he will play more. I like my little note.
Wrong and wrong.
Just so far out.
You doubled down and you got 2 6s on the blackjack table and lost to a blackjack.
So that's not right. Of the new signings, here we go. This one's great. Number 17. Of the new signings, Herget will struggle the most as he navigates his stuff at Coors Field. Not only was he the best pitcher on the Rockies rotation, he had the 10th best ERA in Rockies history. So what the hell do I know? Number 18, Brenton Doyle will solidify himself.
You know what this shows me? We need to make more bad predictions next year. We need to predict every player to have the worst season ever because Herget was elite. And that was the one guy that you were actually down on.
Yeah, that's insane. Brenton Doyle will solidify himself as the permanent leadoff hitter for the Rockies. That's not true, but that was just a weird thing. Charlie Condon will end up in Hartford by the end of the season. Got that one right. Bud Black will get upset with a reporter for asking about minor league prospects before a game at least 5+ times. I think he would have if he had lasted more than like a month. So yeah, if you know, you know, was what I put at the end of that because Bud Black gets upset whenever you talk about the minor league teams. Rockies' average attendance will be less than last year's average of 31,000. That is correct. The new City Connect jerseys will contain the Colorado flag, but not 5280. No, not correct. Kind of correct. They did not include 5280, but it was not the Rockies or the Colorado flag. A game will get delayed or canceled due to snow at least once. That did happen. It was the first game to get delayed due to snow since 2022. Charlie Blackmon will be the celebrity guest for the Savannah Bananas. That did not happen. And an NL West team will win the World Series, and that is still up in the air. It could happen. It would have to be the Dodgers. That was my 25 predictions going into 2025. You know, you made me feel like they weren't as bad as I thought they were when I was reading them, but they were pretty damn bad.
Yeah, they were bad, but I mean, I know that people outside of the Rockies world, the national writers and everybody thinks of the Rockies as a joke, and they kind of proved them right this year, to be honest. Overall, though, the Rockies were just so bad in every single which way that you couldn't predict this.
Yes.
You could not predict that.
Real quick, we're going to pause one last time for our last break of the show. After the break, we'll hit on Spencer's bets and everything else. All right, simple enough. The biggest prediction, at least from an organizational perspective, was Dick Monfort before the season predicting that the Rockies' infield defense was going to be possibly the best in the history of baseball. And not only were they not, they were one of the worst in all of baseball. So yeah, this whole season was just an absolute travesty from predictions, from a experience. Was it that bad from a betting perspective, though?
No, I actually had a few good ones. I mean, let's get to my worst ones. I had Rockies to make the playoffs.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
It was a very small wager, but it was a fun one. It was fun for
$5 to pay off 50,000.
Yeah, it was going to change my life for about 2 days, and then I realized where they were at and that wouldn't happen. And then also just the giant bet I had on the Rockies over in wins. I will be placing that again next year because I will be drinking the purple Kool-Aid all of February.
Sure.
We're gonna have a new front office.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a couple new shiny free agent toys that I expect to be good until they're hurt in week 3. And then we're going to have 2 or 3 new pitchers. 2 or 3 new starters. Kyle Freeland's going to come back and be good.
Maybe Ryan
Feltner's going to be healthy. I know I'm going to be placing the over bet because after a season like this, I bet I'm going to guess. I'll put this out there, and then we can reconvene in January, February when these numbers actually come out. The Rockies over under season bet line next year.
Yeah.
It'll be. I bet you it's 51.5.
100%.
Yeah,
Vegas
it's like
is going to put them in the ground.
It's going to be very in the ground. So yeah, the giant bet on them to make the small bet on them to make the playoffs, rough. The giant bet on them to win over,
You
I
and
think
Hank
it was
both
59 and a
did that.
half games. It was insane. That sucked. But let's get some positive bets in here. I remembered I was trying to look through because I unfortunately have a lot of bets on my Bet365 app, so it takes me a while to find the winners and losers. I've hit some hit parlays. I've hit a few Rockies to homer in games. I think the most elite bet I had though was the night of the Rockies 17-16 win against the Pittsburgh Pirates, because I never, and I repeat, not never, I'm going to say that I did here, but I rarely ever bet on my teams. Never do it. I will bet the game. I will bet 7 different props. I'll bet this guy to get a hit, this guy to get a hit, the game to go over, the game to go under. But I don't want to bet on my team, because if they lose and I bet on them, I'm double pissed. I don't want to bet against my team as much as I can, because then if they win, I lost money. So I try to stay off the money line. But the day of the Rockies-Pirates game, the best game of the year, the 17-16 win against the Pirates, I had Rockies money line. I had over 11.5 runs. The Pirates almost got there in the first inning by themselves.
Yes,
I had Jordan Beck 2+ hits, runs, RBIs. Warming Bernabel 3+ hits, runs, RBIs. Ezekiel Tovar 3+ hits, runs, RBIs. Hunter Goodman 3+ hits, runs, RBIs. And Brenton Doyle 3+ hits, runs, RBIs, who got there on the home run. So the bet hit literally both because of my Rockies money line and because of Brenton Doyle on the walk-off home run. We were already there. We were having an elite time. That had to be my biggest win of the year.
I remember you tweeted that. I think that was tweet worthy. Yeah, that was solid. Didn't Hank have an insane parlay that he hit with like home runs?
Yes, he hit. It was the day the Rockies went back to back to back.
Yes,
and he had all 3 of those players to hit a home run that game, and it was the most elite win of any parlay I've ever seen in my life.
It was. He sent it to us, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And he paid for mortgages. With that payout, it was nuts. Wolfgang in the chat says under 10 wins for April seems like a lock next year. 100%. I think they get 5. Maybe, and that's maybe generous. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find 1 or 2 wins for the Rockies in their April schedule. That's gonna be brutal. It's been a long season, but man, this has been fun. This has been a good time. All right, we gotta talk some postseason stuff. We got to talk a little postseason action, because it's been some wild baseball. I actually also I'm now realizing this. The Mariners' 15-inning game happened after our Friday show, so we haven't had a chance to talk.
That was Friday night.
It was Friday night.
Unbelievable game.
That was the most stressed I have been in a baseball game probably in my entire life. And you guys know, my family's from Seattle. I grew up in Seattle. I wouldn't consider myself a diehard Mariners fan growing up, just because I was a Mariners fan by association because I was going to their games all the time. But I was in a fetal position, on the ground, just as Scott knows, I was in a catcher's squat for at least half that game until I physically couldn't feel my legs anymore, and then I had to move around. That was nuts. That was a crazy game, and they won.
Yeah, just the sketchiness of every inning. You have that as a Mariners fan, and they were at home that game. You were like, okay, you got through the top of the half of the inning. You're like, just squeak one out, and then you don't do it again in the 10th. You don't do it again in the 11th. You don't do it again in the 12th. And the fact that one of the most insane stats I've seen all season was the Tigers hitters 2 through 9 were 1 for 33 on the day, and Kerry Carpenter was 4 for 4. What a wild day! Carpenter. Yeah, it was an insane game, and I heard a lot of people calling for getting sick of the ghost runner, and they're like, we should go away from that. Let me be clear here. Nobody wants to see what we saw in the Mariners-Tigers game in a meaningless game in the middle of June. Nobody wants that. The ghost runner has been great for baseball 100%. And makes it a lot more fun. In the playoffs, though, I'm glad they don't have it, and it makes for extremely intense baseball. And then, of course, you can take the boy out of the Rockies, but you can't take the Rockies out of the boy. Tommy Kahnle, former Rocky, comes in and just gives it up. And
it's not even his fault. He shouldn't have been pitching there. I mean, they had no... AJ Hinch had no desire to use Tommy Kahnle there, and he had to because who else are you going to pitch?
Right, and the crazy thing was I think Cole Bassett's left foot was saying in the chat, Jack Flaherty talking to himself, that was great. That reminds me of the Scherzer days when he would just curse himself out.
Oh, absolute psycho.
But I think both the Mariners and the Tigers, I think in the 10th or 11th are like, fuck it, we're bringing starters out. Like, we don't know how long this is going to last. We're not going to keep going bullpen, guys. We're going to bring starters out.
Yeah, you're seeing. I was joking. I was texting one of my other buddies who lives in Seattle, and I was joking with him. I was like, if it gets to 18 innings where you've had 2 full 9-inning games now, is Skubal eligible to come back out for the Tigers? They're just going through everything. It's like softball rules. Yeah, that was, and it's games like that, and actually games like last night for the Mariners, that make me so scared as a Rockies fan, because pitching is everything. Like, the Tigers are a damn good baseball team. The Blue Jays are one of the best offensive baseball teams I've ever seen. And pitching wins.
I will say
pitching wins.
I want your Mariners to win. I'm on the Mariners train. I really kind of love, or I'm just happy with 3 of the 4 teams left in the NL and ALCS.
Sure, yeah.
Other than the Dodgers. Fuck the Dodgers. They can lose every game for the rest of time.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if the Blue Jays get swept by the Mariners, or it's just an uncompetitive series, it scares me even more, to your exact point here of like, they looked so good offensively. They shattered the Yankees pitching staff. They win a series.
And they have some good pitchers.
And they do have good pitchers. But when you have that good of an offense and you're looking at their guys, and like, even though they're not like household names like your Ernie Clements and your Varsho's, like they're just having an elite offensive season all together as one. And they go out there and score 1 run last night on a leadoff homer, and that was it.
2 hits, less than 100
27
pitches.
Straight, not retired, but like
on the Mariners' 5th pitcher,
right?
5th rotation pitcher,
and the fucking nuts on that guy to go out and give biggest moment of your life. You're playing for a team that doesn't expect to be like, they're not the Yankees. You're not like, we're here every year. This is how it goes. Like, this is lightning in a bottle for the Mariners. This guy comes in, gives up an absolute moonshot to Springer. And at that point, I was like, oh my God, the Mariners are going to allow 8 runs. Like, this is going to be an 8-3 game. And he nuts up and shuts it down. And the bullpen comes in and does the same thing. Like, I was thoroughly impressed with that kid last night.
Bryce Miller was a dog last night, dude. The Mariners pitching. And here's the other part about this. The Mariners offense, yes, they hit home runs. That's all they do, though. They can't do anything else. They're not that good of an offense. Like, their offense isn't bad enough to take away from the game, but they're not good enough to go out and win games like the Brewers do, like the Blue Jays do, like the Yankees do. Like, the Mariners' offense is iffy at times, and their pitching is just so good that it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. And so, yeah, I'm scared of the competitiveness of just pitching in general and what that means to the Colorado Rockies. Speaking of World Series matchups, I see Wolfgang says, a Mariners-Brewers World Series will delay our front office moves. That's an interesting take on that, and I agree. It would. It technically would. From Thomas Harding's article, it looks like, although the Rockies didn't confirm anything, it looks like their goal is to have everything figured out probably by the first or second week of November at the latest. So you're probably going to see an announcement within the next 2 to 3 weeks is my guess. So I don't think it would delay it too much. But it brings up the question that I wanted to ask, which is, what World Series matchup do general baseball fans want? So obviously Rockies fans, we don't have a dog in the fight, so we're rooting against the Dodgers first and foremost. But then, what matchup does the baseball country and world as a whole want to see? Do they want to see Dodgers Blue Jays? Do they want to see Dodgers Mariners? Mariners Brewers? Are we getting a Mariners versus Seattle Pilots match? Is it that kind of the storyline? What do we want to see from this?
I think America probably wants to see Brewers Mariners, because if you're a real American, you don't want this. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, you can't let the one Canadian team win a World Series. You can't let that happen.
That is the world in World Series.
Yes,
it's the only reason
true.
that it can be called a World Series.
But you can't let that happen. It's just like how in hockey a Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup in so many years. America owns the Stanley Cup. America also needs to own the World Series trophy. I think it's a win-win-win. I think as long as the Dodgers are not in it, I think it's going to be an electric series. And the more when you're going through the teams, and I'm like thinking of I'm like a Jersey guy, like Jersey matchups and all of that. Like the Rockies need to change their colors to blue and black because Brewers are blue, Mariners are blue, Blue Jays are blue, quite literally, and Dodgers are blue. Like it's an all blue Final Four. Like that's the
Royals
key.
Are blue too. They didn't make the playoffs this year. It's not all good and blue. But
let's just move it to blue. Change the hue of the purple.
I hate that. Blue is one of my least favorite colors.
No, purple's the best.
Yeah. There's two camps that I fall in with this whole who wants what. Major League Baseball, as an organization, Major League Baseball needs the Dodgers
1,000,000%
in the World Series.
I'm going to derail you for just a second.
Go for it.
On the same path. Did you see that the Major League Baseball official account tweeted a fucking video of Shohei Ohtani flying out and said, "Oh my God, home run? Wild. ? Fly out, wild." What are we doing?
It's not the same. I actually had like 3 drafts like fired up that I wanted to send out, and I just never did on that because I was shocked. Like they're clearly rooting, not to be all conspiracy theory here. They're clearly rooting for the Dodgers. The Dodgers do the numbers, they do the engagements, they make the money. They're international. They get the Japan involved. I get it. The Dodgers pay the bills for Major League Baseball, but my God, can we see a World Series without the Dodgers in it? Real quick, we are heading into overtime. If you're watching on television, head over to thednvr.com to continue this conversation, or keep watching right where you are on YouTube. But so Major League Baseball wants the Dodgers, 100%. I don't mind a good Dodger hate watch, but I will take the Brewers, and I as a Mariners fan, I'm actually okay with either Blue Jays or Mariners. I obviously want the Mariners to get it, but if the Blue Jays end up winning because they're just the better team and they match up with the Brewers or, God forbid, the Dodgers, I'm okay with that too. The Blue Jays, I think, are a very, very good team. I think they just ran into a pitching wall yesterday against the Mariners.
Which won't stop. Like that wall's built up like this brick wall by us over here, which it's not going down anytime soon.
I was actually messaging Scott on Twitter yesterday. I was like, watching a pitching rotation or watching a team that has elite pitching is one of the most insane feelings I've ever felt as a baseball fan, because we as Rockies fans will do the Circle of Trust every Monday during the season, and we would have maybe one pitcher in the Circle of Trust.
Yeah, like somebody got one save, and it was there in the Circle of Trust.
And the Mariners have their entire pitching staff, starters, relievers, maybe 1 or 2 guys that are just kind of filler rotation guys or relief guys. Every single other pitcher in the rotation, in the staff for the Mariners, in the Circle of Trust all season long. Like, how does that feel?
Yeah.
What is that experience like? I'd like to know, as a Rockies fan, what that experience is like. It's crazy. So, but if I'm having to choose, man, Mariners and Brewers would be a solid World Series.
So, do you think, as we love to hate watch the Dodgers, do you think it's going to be more fulfilling for us to watch the Mariners or the Blue Jays beat the Dodgers in the World Series, or the Dodgers not even making the World Series?
If I'm speaking purely as a Mariners fan, if I could give a crystal ball, and if you told me what's the best possible outcome you could think of for your enjoyment of this World Series, this postseason run, the Mariners beating the Dodgers in the World Series would give me joy unlike anything else. But I don't care how the Dodgers lose as long as they lose, right? I don't care who they lose to. I don't care when they lose as long as they just lose. But best case scenario, although it would stress me the hell out, the Mariners beating the Dodgers in the World Series would be sweet.
Yeah. I think the Dodgers losing in the World Series from a pure hate perspective would be much sweeter as a Rockies fan. Like, they made it all the way there. They beat the Brewers, who are a great story, and the Brewers have had the best record in the NL this year, home field advantage in the NLCS. And then the Dodgers go on to take on 2 teams that are basically either, whether it's Blue Jays or Mariners, like just getting here and just coming up, and then them to just lose would be incredible.
Either way it goes, it will be the first ever World Series matchup combination. No matter which way it goes, no matter which combination lines up, it will be the first time in the history of baseball that those 2 teams match up in the World Series. So nice little fun fact there. Real quick, before we finish, I have to ask, we got to finish this real quick. What was the most stressed out you've ever felt as a Rockies fan watching a baseball game?
Probably game 163.
163?
163 was very, very stressful. And it was like, it was such an up and down game, 13 innings. Like I showed up to the park that day knowing that we could either have a magical run, which we did, but one bounce goes another way and your entire season and the excitement of that season's over. So I think 163 was by far the most stressful.
Crazy. Love it. Love a good stress watch on some baseball, especially when your team comes out victorious. We got to hang things up here on the show. Thank you guys for watching, staying a few minutes late with us. We'll be back on Friday for another edition of DNVR Rockies. We'll see you guys then next time on the DNVR Rockies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.